We are going to be a little bit early today, ladies and gentlemen. I'll explain why in just 1 second. First, we have to choose what draft we are going to get in, and there are a million options currently on Underdog. You have the Greyhounds, the Big Dog, the Mastiff, obviously the very high buy-ins. You can go over, you can see some lower buy-ins, the $25 Best Ball Mania, $10 weekly winners, $10 eliminator, $15 marathon, $50 sprint. So many different options, so many different structures. I think right now I'm going to be trying to get in as many of these sprint drafts as I possibly can. Personally, I really like the idea of the cumulative scoring aspect, specifically for weeks 15, 16, 17. And yeah, let's go ahead. Let's hop into the sprint here. There are 9 spots available in this draft for anybody wanting to come in here with us, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm assuming this is going to take a decent amount of time. So if you want to draft with us and you are early, I mean, you are pretty much guaranteed a spot at this point. But thank you so much for everybody coming out. Nico Collins, wide receiver. Okay, we're talking a little crazy there, my friends. Blaine says Nico's the biggest bust candidate. So yes, we're early today. The reason we are a little early is the girlfriend is doing a short film tonight at the house. So there are going to be a zillion people over here. And I figured I did not want to try to live stream with hearing action, cut, and crap. So we are going to get this done a little early before everybody comes over. But 6 spots open in this draft, 5 spots open. I want to reiterate, this is the sprint on Underdog. If anybody wants to get in here with us, $50 buy-in, $1 million prize pool. It's going to be regular weeks 1 through 14, cumulative scoring weeks 15, 16, 17, with 100,000 for first, 50,000 for second, 40,000 for third, 30,000 for fourth, 25,000 for fifth, 20,000 for sixth, all the way down the line. And there are 4 spots left available in the sprint for anybody wanting to get in. But Hayden about to start work. I'm sorry, my friend. I am sorry. But let's see. We're doing great. I am a little tired today. Not going to lie with y'all. But we are 7 days out from going to France. So we're going to be streaming every single night for the next 7 days. And then I'm sorry, but we are going to have to take the first break that we have had from streaming Underdog drafts essentially every single night during the peak season, that is, of course, for the first time in maybe like 3 years. So, yes, we got 7 days left, and then we're going to be gone for 2 weeks, and then we'll be back, and we'll be ready to hit the ground running, my friends. Penix, sadly, I do not watch any baseball. But this draft's full. Let's see what pick we get. We get pick 4. Let's freaking go. I'm fine. Give me pick in 9, 10, 11 in drafts that the buy-in's $5 on Underdog. Sure, give me those picks. But if we're in a $50 buy-in on Underdog, I am going to be fine at 4. Now, the theme that I want to be talking about in this draft, in this live stream, is going to be the possibility of how ADP may end up moving if you have the Niners receiver getting dealt. Whether that's Ayuk, whether that's Debo. Obviously, there are rumors circulating that one of them may end up getting moved over to Pittsburgh, which my initial thought on that was, okay, obviously, if Ayuk gets dealt, Debo gets bumped up, Ayuk gets bumped down, and obviously Ricky Sticky gets bumped up as well. But somebody brought up in the live stream yesterday that George Kittle would have to be rising that instance as well. And that does scare me a bit because we've seen Kittle in specific weeks have a massive ceiling. If you are looking at George Kittle right now, he's getting drafted at 63. He is going ahead of Kyle Pitts. He's going behind Mark Andrews, behind Kincaid, behind McBride. What's funny is if you are looking at the Underdog projections, Underdog currently is projecting George Kittle as the tight end 4 in total points. However, George Kittle is being drafted as the tight end 7. Now, I do want to reiterate, however, that that's not going to be a big deal in my mind if you are looking at where you should draft those guys. More importantly, I think you need to be thinking the range of outcomes rather than the median projection on Underdog. But if you have Ayuk or Debo getting dealt, I think you could see Kittle jump around. So Amon-Ra St. Brown off the board at 3, which is very interesting. Obviously, St. Brown started off with an ADP behind Tyreek, Chase, and Jefferson. You're seeing St. Brown creep up slowly but surely. I will go ahead. We'll take Tyreek Hill at 4. This is going to put us in a position where we could potentially be looking at some Miami stacks a little later on. So, yeah, I think Waddle's in play at 21. Obviously, I would take Waddle at 28 if he were to fall. And then there's also a chance that we go Achane at 28 as well. Okay. So, let's move this over. Paulo asking, what are the merits of drafting 2 tight ends early on Underdog? So, obviously, if you get a spike week from one while the other guy's a dud, you're not having to predict which guy's going to hit your starting lineup. It will just automatically be that you get a very high points per game in your tight end slot almost regardless. And then, yeah, it is a possibility that one of those tight ends hits your flex. But Justin Jefferson makes it down to pick 8 in this draft. Dear God, let's see what that team at 8's able to get at pick 17. To be completely honest, when I get that round 1 guy falling considerably past ADP, like Justin Jefferson down to pick 8, what I'm doing almost 100% of the time in round 2 is I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to take whoever falls according to ADP there at pick 17. That way you can possibly have a little bit more of a unique build. But yeah, super interesting to see Jefferson make it all the way down to 8. Okay, Jeff says RBs don't really stack. Yeah, we've shown the data before. The vast majority of running backs aren't really going to correlate too well with quarterbacks in their offenses. You will see them correlate with with receivers, which is interesting. A big reason is if you see, say, for instance, you go through in last year, you drafted Tyreek Hill and you drafted, I don't know, Mostert. You drafted Achane consistently in these drafts. And you made that one concentrated bet that the Miami Dolphins offense was going to be better than people were projecting. And you hit on that one thing. Both guys actually do return value on where they are cost. Now we'll dive into a complete video about stacking and where correlation lies. But typically the running backs that don't catch passes aren't going to correlate with passing offenses, whereas the running backs that do catch passes will. So if you're looking at, say, Breece Hall wouldn't be a bad guy to correlate with Aaron Rodgers, considering the fact that Breece Hall could go out there and he could have 60, 70 receptions in a single season, and he could have 600, 700 receiving yards to go along with it. Okay. Now, let's see. We have Olave off the board at 18. So the team that grabbed Justin Jefferson went Nico Collins, which is interesting to say the least. Devontae Adams off the board at 19. Joey got Jamar Chase at pick 5. Let's see what he decides to do at 20. Stephon Diggs goes. So we're going to take Brandon Ayuk. Going back to what we're talking about to open up this live stream, there is that outside chance that you see one of these Niners receivers get dealt, whether that's Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. And I think if Ayuk gets dealt to Pittsburgh, we can clearly say that Ayuk is a horrible selection here at 21. If Ayuk gets dealt to another offense, if that's Pittsburgh, if that's Carolina, he will fall considerably in these drafts. Whereas if Brandon Ayuk maybe gets dealt to the Chargers, maybe if he gets dealt to Buffalo, which probably is not happening, right? If we're going to be very honest with each other, then he could stay the same or maybe even go up. But there is going to be a slightly larger range of outcomes than what you're seeing with Ayuk's projection this next year, based off us not knowing 100% where he or Deebo Samuel will be playing. They're most likely in San Fran, but that is not a guarantee. But the thing is, if Deebo Samuel gets dealt, say Deebo goes over to Pittsburgh, then all of a sudden I would clearly rather have Ayuk over Diggs, Adams, Olave, Nico, London, Harrison. So we're going to go ahead. We'll take Ayuk, who I think has a wider range of outcomes for him to move in ADP from June 1st to June 2nd to July 2nd. And that's kind of what we're chasing here. If it's a $50 buy-in, $100,000 first place prize, right? So let's move this over. We have both Waddle and Achane off the board, so they will not be in play for us here. I personally am fine going with Kyren Williams in this range. I think this is something that we've talked about previously. We're going to go to Devonta Smith, however, because from what I've seen in drafts over the past 2 days, is it looks like Kyren is going to be a running back that we are able to get in mid to late round 3 consistently. It looks like Kyren's falling to end of round 3. So with that being a possibility, I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to mix in some more receivers here. And in another draft, we'll take Kyren Williams. And like we've mentioned previously, our rule at wide receiver this year, and we need to try to be better about it. I've wasted a lot of money with certain drafts where we didn't listen to ourselves. But everybody watching this, you cannot punt on a receiver through the first 4 rounds. If you punt on wide receiver through the first 4 rounds, good freaking luck. You're just never coming back. Or the data historically has been, if you don't go with the receiver in the first 4 rounds, you're complete toast. B, typically we need 5 receivers through the first 8 rounds. We can mix in a running back here in the middle rounds, which y'all have seen us do pretty much every single offseason at this point. We can mix in the elite level quarterback, the elite level tight end, which I really like doing as well. But we do want 5 receivers through the first 8. Canaria says Waddle's ADP has been rising since the new contract. 100%. That's why I knew that we weren't going to get Waddle in round 3. Devonta Smith has seen his ADP rise as well. And I have a ton of Smith. I don't necessarily know if we've drafted him much here in round 3, but we got him a ton earlier this offseason, late round 3. Okay, and real quick, I need to say this before we forget again. If you don't know what's going on, I don't know how. We've been doing this every single day for years. We're drafting on Underdog Fantasy. These are best ball drafts, so there's no time commitment at all during the season. It's how I draft every single day on here for years. It's how I won $150,000 on Underdog 2 years ago. And yeah, if you want to join a draft with us, we're doing it every night. You can find the link in the description, find it in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK will get you hooked up with a 50% deposit bonus up to $250. Plus promo code FLOCK will get you set up with a special pick'em, something like Luka Doncic, more than less than half a total point, depending on the day that you sign up, will depend on the player that you get. And also, Underdog's available in damn near every state. You can see the map here. And code FLOCK gets you our 2024 rankings. Don't know if we said that, but we probably should. Okay. So let's move this over. I don't know why, but our freaking camera box is stuck here. So y'all are going to have to deal with that, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. Lamar goes 41. So it looks like our ability to take an elite level quarterback is now out the window. Y'all know I really like mixing in Lamar here at like 45 and seeing if we can get Andrews on the way back around 5. But let's move this around. And we have a lot of flexibility on what we can be doing here at 45 since we went Devonta Smith there in round 3, which is a big reason why we like going 3 wide receivers out the gate, because it does give us the optionality to kind of just do whatever we want here at pick 45. And to be honest with you, I would way rather have Travis Etienne over Amari Cooper. So we're going to do just that. We're going to take Etienne. It's a big reason why we pass on Kyren Williams in favor of Devonta Smith. And yeah, I feel good about that decision. I mean, if I'm sitting here, I would rather have Smith and Etienne than Kyren and Amari. So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's take Etienne at 45. Vadim says it's piss and purple all of a sudden, which honestly is a little sad for me. I've been grabbing a lot of these round 4 QBs. It's interesting to see Allen fall. I know someone told us in the live stream yesterday that every quarterback's ADP has risen except I think they named like 2 or 3 guys over the past 2 weeks. But personally, what I've been seeing is I remember when drafts first opened up, Josh Allen never made it out of round 3. And now it looks like Allen consistently goes round 4. Joey says that Higgins got sniped from him. Yeah. If I'm taking Higgins, typically it's going to be on a team where you go running back out the gate, like that team with Breece Hall did, or it's the team that you add, Joey, where you have Jamar Chase. So interesting. Okay. So we have Reed, Jacobs, both off the board. Jacobs going around 5 is interesting. And yeah, Stroud's not going to be in play considering we don't have any of the Houston receivers. I will take a lot of round 5 CJ Stroud. I'll mix in round 6 CJ Stroud unstacked if he ever makes it that far. But it feels difficult to try to force an unstacked CJ Stroud here at 52. We know we won't get Mixon on the way back around. I don't want to be forced to reach on Schultz later on. So I'm just going to take whoever falls between Kincaid and Pacheco. I think we've given ourselves this flexibility with taking the 3 receivers out the gate. So we will go with Isaiah Pacheco here at pick 52, get exposure to the Chiefs offense. And yeah, I will feel very good about this start of Tyreek, Ayuk, Smith at receiver, Etienne and Pacheco at running back. And over the next few rounds, we more likely than not will be looking to go with some more receivers. But I think we're still on pace to, like we said, we want 5 through the first 8 rounds. Bingo Bongo says Kincaid would be awesome. I actually thought we were going to get Kincaid since that team at 27 took Laporta. And I'm sure y'all saw us, especially when these drafts first opened up, taking a lot of round 3 Laporta. The reason I've cooled off taking as much Laporta as we were is just because I really like round 5 Dalton Kincaid. I really like round 5 Mark Andrews as well. So it is a little bit tougher to go Laporta round 3 than Kincaid round 5. I think you can get away with it. I think you can do well depending on the guys that you hit later in the draft. But yeah, I thought once Kincaid made it past the teams at 48, 49, 50, that he was going to be our guy at 52, but it didn't happen. Kadarius says, are there any builds where you think it's okay not to take 5 receivers through the first 8 rounds? My friend, you will see me very often fail to get 5 receivers through the first 8 rounds. I will fail that goal often. And where that happens is wide receivers run away. There's not much that we can do about it. So that's always our goal, but you will see us go through and like if we get to round 8 saying we want a receiver, but Sutton's gone and instead the ADP looks like this, where it's either we take Zach Moss or Tyler Lockett. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to take the running back, right? So it's a situation I don't want to find ourselves in, but it happens to us a lot. So that's why we've been trying to get better about just going 3 receivers out the gate and giving ourselves the flexibility here in the middle rounds. Tiger Uppercut says there are some late round receivers that can outperform their draft position. 100%. I mean, if y'all saw the draft that we did last night, I think we started out like 4 or 5 receivers straight. I think we went 4 receivers straight. And then there was a run from rounds like 9 through 15 where we didn't take another receiver. And then we go wide receiver rounds 15, 16, 17. Okay, so if we're looking at what we can do here, a couple different options. One, we could go Evan Ingram and set ourselves up potentially with the Lawrence, Etienne, Ingram double stack. The reason we're not going to do that is, one, we go Lad. We set ourselves up with the ability to take Justin Herbert a little bit later on. 2, this team right behind us already has Laporta and Kincaid, so there's a 0% chance that they are able to take Evan Ingram. So there is an outside chance if we take Lad here at 69, we still get Ingram on the way back around at 76. If Ingram doesn't make it back, we can still go Brian Thomas and set ourselves up with Trevor Lawrence a little later on. And going back to what we were talking about previously, we want to have 5 receivers through the first 8 rounds. So when we go running back rounds 4 and 5, it's a little bit tougher to take Evan Ingram there. But Dak Prescott 73 to a that's a very interesting pick, to a non-CeeDee Lamb team. Now, y'all have seen me take an unstacked Dak Prescott. I think we did so on the live stream like 2 or 3 nights ago. And we tried to take an unstacked Dak, and then later on, we tried to grab the value. Okay, we're going to go Kamara. Yeah, we took an unstacked Dak, and then later on, we were trying to grab some Dallas potential pairings. And we whiffed, but we took the unstacked Dak Prescott to pick 100. So it's a little bit of a different scenario. I'm willing to go with those pocket passing options, unstacked if they fall considerably past ADP, where we potentially can look at some of their options a little later on as well. But to go out there and reach 15 picks to do that, I don't know. Personally, that's not something I'm a big fan of. But we're going to go Kamara by taking Ladd where we did. I think we give ourselves the optionality where we don't have to take a receiver. We don't have to take JSN. I'm sure y'all noticed we haven't taken a lot of Kamara so far this year, but he's reasonably priced. I think he's better in round 7 than he is in round 6. But what I would have preferred, to be honest with you, is I would have preferred to go Kenneth Walker at 69 over anything else. But we whiffed on the Jacksonville guys where the team at 71 and 74 decided to pair up Evan Ingram and Brian Thomas, which I can't fault them for at all. I mean, obviously, that is something that you see often in these underdog drafts. Kadarius Toney says Team 3 going all in on the Lions. I did not even notice that. What's Team 3 doing here? Has St. Brown, Laporta, and Montgomery. Yeah, so Team 3 all in on the Lions, all in on Buffalo. Yeah, the Keon pick makes a lot of sense when you have Kincaid there. Let's move this over. You have Deontay, Christian Watson, both off the board. So ideally, what we're going to see here at 93 is ideally we will take a receiver. But going back to what we were talking about previously, there will be drafts where we whiff on our goal of 5 receivers through the first 8 rounds. It's not something that you absolutely have to do, but it's essentially something we are trying to do to keep us honest. But if we're going through and figuring out what we could have done instead of the running backs with where we took them, instead of going ETN, it would have been Pickens or Amari. Give me Travis Etienne over those guys. Instead of going Pacheco, it would have been Terry McLaurin and Keenan Allen. Give me Pacheco over those guys. Instead of going Kamara, it would be JSN, Deontay, Christian Watson. No, give me Kamara over those guys. So while it looks like there's a chance that we whiff on our goal of 5 receivers through the first 8 rounds, I think, honestly, this draft board, it's kind of fallen to us in a way where maybe that wasn't exactly optimal. We are early. The girlfriend has a bunch of people coming over tonight, and they're filming some like big short film. So I think they're coming over at 6. They have to do it at night, so like the lighting's the same throughout the entire thing. So like one shot doesn't have the sun this high through the window versus this high. So yeah, I'm having to get this done early before everybody comes because I don't want to have to hear behind me 1,000 people in the house. Scott says, league winners this year, Henry, Mixon, Dotson, Shakir. I do not have much Henry. I don't know if I have much Dotson or Shakir, so I hope you're wrong, my friend. Hope you're wrong. Paulo says, pick 12 Chiefs triple stack. Really exciting team. Puka and Gibbs as well. Through this, love the Puka Gibbs start. Go Kelsey, Mahomes, Worthy. The Rome pick's a little bit interesting there at 61. Very rarely you're seeing Rome go at that slot still. Jameson here at 85 is something I'm personally not a big fan of. I would probably prefer going, I guess you don't need to go. Yeah, you don't need to go Rice when you already have Worthy and Kelsey. But interesting. Yeah, so going back to what we were talking about previously with that question we got, like when can we deviate from our goal of 5 receivers through the first 8 rounds? When you're looking at this draft board here and it's like, okay, do I want DeAndre Swift, Zach Moss, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, or do I want to scroll all the way down to find Tyler Lockett? I'd probably rather just go ahead and take the running back here. Obviously, it's going to change our structure a little bit later in what we are doing. But Swift goes 91. Let's see what Joey the Kid decides to do. Goes Pollard, which honestly is a little bit interesting. I was expecting a Zach Moss pick there. We'll mix in Zach Moss ourselves. It's difficult to see Love in this range. I mean, I think you can make an argument that Jordan Love's a much better pick than what you have with a lot of the other running backs here. But going back to what we were talking about previously, it'd be very difficult to go out there and reach on Jordan Love when we have him unstacked, and all of a sudden we'd be forced to probably reach on the tight ends later, reach on the secondary receivers like Dontavian Wicks. So let's take Zach Moss. It's an awkward spot. Try to figure out what we can be doing later on, but our potential quarterback stacks still are Purdy with Ayuk, Tua with Tyreek, Herbert with Ladd. So we still have a couple different options here. Okay. HBK says, do you feel like taking part in these drafts through the offseason helps when it comes time for redraft? Oh, hell yes, my friend. Hell yeah. So I would say the drafters on Underdog, to be completely honest with you, I need to stop saying to be completely honest with you. I say that every single sentence. But yeah, I think they are the sharpest drafters you're going to find in fantasy football. And the reason for that is there's essentially the most money drafted on Underdog in comparison to any other platform. So I think typically the sharpest drafters are going to be where the most money is. Okay, so Love, Kayla, both off the board. We could go Daniels for the rushing upside. We could reach on Purdy to pair him up with Ayuk. But to look at this, the Debo team and the Christian McCaffrey team will be on the other side of us for Brock Purdy. So what we're probably going to do is we're probably going to take Tyler Lockett here instead at pick 100. You can make a pretty damn strong argument for the tight end. You can make an argument for David Njoku here, of course, especially when that would give us the ability to go with Watson later on. We can go Lockett and then potentially open up the path for Geno. But we whiffed on the goal of having 5 receivers through the first 8. So we're going to settle for 5 receivers through the first 9. But obviously at this point, what we are sending up a prayer for is we are sending up a prayer to have quarterbacks fall to us. Because the last thing that we want is this to end up being a team where we are having to rely on freaking an option like Bryce Young. Please don't let it happen. So yeah, if we're looking at this, Purdy and Tua are the guys that we are looking at quarterback currently. And Justin Herbert, of course. But if you're looking at where those potential stacks are, typically you're never going to see anybody take Purdy unstacked, take Tua unstacked because they don't really have the rushing upside. The teams that we'd have to worry about taking Tua would be the teams with Tyreek Hill. We have Tyreek, the team with Waddle, the team with Achane, and the team with Waddle and Achane are going to be on the other side of us. So we shouldn't have an issue getting Tua at pick 117. Now, Purdy may be a little bit of a different story because if you're looking at the Brock Purdy team, Purdy can go to Debo, he can go to Ayuk, he can go to CMC, or he can go to George Kittle. So you do have to dodge a bunch of different rosters here. You have the CMC team on the other side of us. You have the Debo Samuel team on the other side of us. We have Brock Purdy. So really the main team that we are having to dodge is George Kittle. This is a team that just took Jaden Daniels here at pick 103. So really what we want to see is we want to see what happens at 114 and if they decide to go with Brock Purdy or not. But Taylor says, love your streams. Thank you, Taylor. Saw that you were out here at the very beginning of the live stream with us, which I definitely appreciate. I think you said you were first like in the stream. Or maybe that was someone else, but thank you. Thank you. HBK says, would you say stacking is just important to redraft? Stacking is important. Doesn't matter if it's redraft, dynasty, or best ball. You want to make correlated bets. If you take Tyreek early on, you need to understand we're playing for first. The only place I will say stacking is not a major factor is if your league punishes you for being in last place. Because what you're trying to do with stacking is you're trying to polarize your range of outcomes. You want to say you are either going to be horrible or great, right? We're trying to go all in. We're trying to double down on bets that we take early in the draft. So if you have a massive punishment where you're going to have to get a tattoo for last place in your fantasy football draft, instead of stacking, at that point, I understand. Maybe I'm playing for 6th, okay? Maybe I'm not playing for 1st there. But if your draft is a regular fantasy football draft where what we are trying to focus in on is we are trying to focus in on upside, 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 because what you want is you want first place where the money is, then yes, you should be stacking, doubling down. But Taylor coming out with another donation. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Yeah. Kadari Sony says, damn. Okay, Taylor flexing on us with the flex. Okay. A-Rod says the Waddle team's for sure getting Tua if you don't before him. Yeah, so the issue is, right, we'd have to worry about the Waddle team and possibly the HN team if we pass on Tua here at 117. But let's look at this. With the Waddle team, actually, no, I don't think the Waddle team goes Tua. Because if you look at this, they have Brian Thomas, Evan Ingram. I think that they would be a little more likely to go Trevor Lawrence instead of Tua, since they have the double stack for the Jags guys. The team Eagles right after us is going to go Goff. They have Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we are going to take Brock Purdy here. We're going to pair up Purdy with Brandon Ayuk. The George Kittle team passed on Brock Purdy in favor of Javonte Williams. So we'll go Purdy at 117, and I think we end up getting Tua on the way back around at 124. The team at 1 can't go with another quarterback. They already have Dak and Love. The team at 2 is more likely to go Lawrence. They have Brian Thomas and Evan Ingram. Yeah, they go Lawrence there. And the team right before us has no Dolphins. So if we were wanting to really push the envelope, if we are wanting to sit here and go, watch this, let me dunk on y'all, what we would do is we would go running back here at 124, and we would say that all the potential Tua teams are on the other side of the draft board from us, and we may get Tua on the way back around, or we may get Justin Herbert on the way back around. So I don't know. Two is the safe pick. We're going to roll the dice. We're going to take a bum old dusty running back instead of the obvious stack that allows us to only have a 2 QB build. We're going to go Eckler. We'll take our last running back in this draft. Let me be very clear. This is more likely than not what we call a mistake. What's going to happen is Tua's probably going to go to a team unstacked. I'm probably going to sit here and cry. But the reason we're willing to roll the dice is, one, it's a $50 buy-in, $100,000 first place prize. We are trying to chase a team that not many people are able to build. And we are trying to chase the top 1% range of outcomes. And yes, you do have Tua here at 129. And the second thing that we are going to say is we have the back door where we could potentially go Justin Herbert and pair him up with Ladd if Tua goes, which Tua does go to the team with Kyler at 88. Which I'm not going to fault anybody for taking Tua there, of course, right? Like, we rolled the dice, we risked it, we didn't get him, and that's on me. It's not on anybody else who takes him. Adam says, should have gone Palmer for a potential Herbert double stack. I know I have a monkey brain. I know that I am an idiot, but I don't know if I can take Joshua Palmer over Austin Eckler. I don't know. So, Taylor, welcome to being a member of the flock. Joey says, can you grade the team and what should we have done differently? You should have screamed in the live chat, Mason, no, like the Breaking Bad meme. No, take Tua. Take Tua. That's what you should have done. But outside of that, we went Chase at 5. I don't like Diggs at 20. I guess actually, no, it's fine, because if you're looking at Diggs at 20, even though you can get him in mid-round 3 of these drafts, now if you are trying to have a little bit of a unique build where Diggs goes mid-round 3 of these drafts and Neighbors goes mid-round 3, I guess there aren't going to be a lot of Diggs-Neighbors pairing. So if those are the two guys that go nuclear in weeks 15, 16, 17, and not a ton of them have the same players, that same combo for that playoff stretch, could be really good. But I will say you're going to get a lot of mid-round 3 Stephon Diggs now. Trey McBride at 44. I like Stroud to pair up with Diggs. Makes sense. Love Kenneth Walker at 68 for your first RB. JSN at 77, Pollard at 92. I would have potentially gone Moss with the Chase pairing going on Cincy. We have Connor past ADP. We're already in on that offense. We have Schultz for the double stack with Stroud. So I think it's a great team. And Herbert goes 3 picks before us, so we are whiffing on our quarterbacks here. And now there's no ability for us to be going running back at this point. We are exclusively wide receiver, quarterback, tight ends. And here we are yet again. Another draft, another team where we are having to rely on freaking Carolina. Keep pounding. Dear God. Dear God. Dear God. Now, what we'll probably be looking at on the way back around is if we can get them, we're going to want Sticky Ricky, Dicky Ricky, Ticky Ricky, Stinky Ricky, whatever we want to call them. That way we could potentially go with the Purdy, Ayuk, Ricky double stack. And if we end up getting a Debo to Pittsburgh deal, then all of a sudden, I mean, we could get that bump in value both from Ricky and Ayuk. Now, what we are wanting to see is we are really wanting to see running backs off the board. Once we already have our 5 RBs, the dream is Condre Miller goes to whichever one of these teams here wants him. Now, we can't take him ourselves. We could go Johnston, pair him up with Ladd. Johnson goes 146. I think plan A is Sticky Ricky. Plan B is Pat Frymuth. Bingo bongo, this is not best ball mania, my friend. We're not too concerned about week 17 bringbacks. This is cumulative scoring weeks 15, 16, 17. So we're going to go ahead. We are going to take Ricky here at 148. Pair him up with Ayuk. Pair him up with Debo. I didn't like Leggett. I didn't like Ricky as prospects. But with that being said, they both go round 1 of the NFL drafts. Not too many other people liked him as prospects either, as you can see with him going at pick 141, 148 in drafts currently. So, yeah, they're round 1 NFL rookies. So, I do think you have a wide range of outcomes. They both could be really bad. One of them could be really good. And we kind of already have a good understanding of who Quentin Johnston is at this point. Kind of already have a good understanding of who Darnell Mooney is at this point, right? I don't necessarily know if we're going to be surprised in a big positive way with those two guys. But I think, honestly, I'm completely fine with those wide receiver price points. I think they fit the roster well, too. So now what we have to do is we are going to have to sit here and panic about what quarterback we are going to potentially get. This may end up being a 3 QB and 3 tight end build, which is typically something we're never wanting to do. But at the same time, typically we're never wanting to go with 0 quarterbacks or tight ends through the first 9 rounds, which ended up happening in this draft. Wide receiver, we're currently sitting with Tyreek, Ayuk, Devonta Smith, Ladd, Lockett, Leggett, and Ricky. Running back, we currently have Etienne, Pacheco, Kamara, Moss, Eckler. Quarterback, we have Purdy double stacked up with Ayuk and Ricky. So at this point, I think what we're probably looking to do from a quarterback front, unless anything changes over the next few rounds, is it probably makes sense for us to go with Jordan Love. I'm sorry, not Jordan Love. Bryce Young and Geno Smith in rounds like 16 and 17 and go with that 3 QB build. But we're going to have to take 3 tight ends. So it's going to be a draft where we go with 2 more quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, and then 1 more receiver. Compton Ace, happy to see you, my friend. Long time member of the flock. Thank you so much for stopping by. Tiger Upcup says this looks like a Geno Fant team to me. I think you are 100% correct. Let's move this over. Vidal. I have noticed him falling a decent amount over the past week. Do we have a news blurb on him? No. Obviously, he's not in play for us. Baker's probably not in play for us either. I guess we could go Baker and then Otten on the way back around if we really wanted to. So a team with 3 rookie receivers. I don't know if that stops us from taking Benson or not. But yeah, this team already has Andrews and Frymuth, so they're probably done at tight end. This team has McBride and Schultz, so they're probably done at tight end as well. So these would be the 2 teams that we're having to dodge Benson out. But this team has Jaden Daniels, so if I were them, I would go Benson out. But they also only have 3 running backs, and maybe you see him go RB. Yeah, they go Sanat there at 162, which is, like I said, what I would have done if I were them. So looking behind us, this team is Goff and Rodgers. They can definitely go with another quarterback. This team has Caleb Lawrence. They're probably done at QB. I wouldn't be super surprised to see them go with another. This team is Dak and Love, so they're for sure done. Looking at the receivers in this range, my favorite guy here is either Mims or Wandale. Both of whom have quarterbacks that are going later in this draft. I have no idea what to do. We're going to panic pick Mims, and then we're going to be done at receiver. Like I said, I think you could have made an argument to go Baker and Cade Otton if you were guaranteed to get Otton on the way back around. But there were a considerable amount of teams there that only have 1 tight end. We'd have to dodge 4 picks. So we'll go Mims. Potentially grab Bo Nix at the very end and send up a prayer that he's not horrible. Alex says go Watson. If we would have known that we would have completely fumbled the bag at quarterback, I think that we would have taken David Njoku earlier on to open up the door for Deshaun Watson here. Because Watson probably is my favorite quarterback in this range. Conklin goes 168. Levis off 169. Interesting to see that team be the one to take the 3rd QB. Because they already had Dak and Love, and they took Dak and Love early. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the pick, but it's kind of what scared us away. And they had Mike Evans. Yeah, I'm surprised to see the Levis over Baker. Mean Muggin says the real question is, do you regret passing on Tua there? Hindsight being 2020, of course. Now that we know that Tua goes, we should have taken Tua. But the thing is, at the time, you just don't know if Tua's going to make it back to you or not, and which typically you see a lot of times those quarterbacks that are strictly pocket passing options, they will make it back around to you. So we will take Geno here. We're going to pair up Geno with Lockett, and taking Geno gives us the ability to go for Noah Fant a little later on as well, which obviously is something that we are having to look at. But of course, if you want another draft, go down there, hit that like button. If we hit 300 likes on this live stream, we'll fire up another draft after this. And we are probably going to make the cutoff once we make our round 17 pick. Because if we are going to fire up a draft, it has to be immediately after pick 196 before everybody comes over. Because I'm going to have to go get that dog before she goes nuts. Okay, so let's move this down. And what we're looking at now is we're going to hope that we can get Noah. Actually, am I an idiot? I am an idiot, aren't I? I'm sitting here thinking that we could have 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends, and I decided to take Marvin Mims. So, no, we cannot go with the 3rd QB. We are just sitting with Brock Purdy and Geno Smith, setting up a massive prayer that Brock Purdy carries us here. So, yeah, I was, for whatever reason, not paying attention enough to realize that we are not going to be able to mix in another quarterback. And clearly, when you take 0 tight ends to the first 15 rounds, we are going to have to take 3 nasty tight ends at the end of this draft and pray that they can come through for us. Okay. Damari Douglas, just anything but tight end going is good for us. Cal says, hook 'em Lawrence. Take the Carolina tight end. I got you, my friend. We'll get you Tavion Sanders in. And yes, I don't know if we've had a Bo Nix draft yet. Just previously, the Tank Dell ADP was very gross. I'm sorry, not the Tank Dell. The Troy Franklin ADP was very gross. So I wasn't really taking any Franklin. I was mixing in Sutton. But typically in these drafts, we're coming away with the elite level quarterback. We're not even considering QB at the very end. But we probably need to fix that because if we're looking at quarterbacks versus tight ends at the very end of these drafts, like I like the rushing upside of Daniel Jones. I mean, if we can get Deshaun Watson around 16, we've seen Watson break fantasy football in the past. Like it does feel like there are better quarterback options at the very end than tight ends. However, I put myself in a position where we are consistently getting these garbage tight ends. We're going to take Chig here. He had target volume last year. Now, of course, the issue is you bring in Ridley, you bring in Boyd, you bring in Pollard, as if that matters. So all of a sudden, it does look a little bit tougher to project out Chig to have that same target volume this next season, but maybe Tennessee's a better offense. Brandon says, hey, Mason, do you like all the different formats Underdogs come out with this year? I love some of them, and some others aren't for me, right? So this is the sprint, and I'm freaking pumped about the sprint. The cumulative scoring weeks 15 through 17, I love. I love the typical structure weeks 1 through 14. It's one of my favorite tournaments Underdogs come out with in a very long time. And what I love about what they are doing is they are just giving more options than any other platform by a mile, right? So yes and no. I don't want to sit here and act like I love every single tournament that's dropped in every single structure, but I think their goal in just dropping a zillion different tournaments with a zillion different options is they're going to have something for everybody, right? Everybody's going to have their tournament of choice, which is just really, really cool. Now, this is a spot where this team right before us went bully tight end. They have Laporta, Kincaid. They can't take another. So it looks like we are getting Isaiah Likely here. Whoop, whoop. We passed on Likely in favor of Chig in the last round. I take a lot of Lamar, so I kind of find myself just getting stuck with Likely here at the very end. Good season last year. Everybody knows that, but also everybody knows it was based off of Mark Andrews' injury, so we're going to be really excited, and we are going to take a backup handcuff tight end, which Fantasy Football 101 is you want to be taking handcuff tight ends. So let's go ahead. Let's lock that in, and it looks like we have no shot at hitting 300 likes. So we will probably cut the live stream here so we can get everything going and settle the dog down. But yeah, we're going to take one more tight end at the very end of this draft. We'll probably just go a little bit further down ADP, try to find someone that's not going to get drafted in every single tournament here. But thank you again for hanging out with us in this live stream. I'm sorry that we had to go a little bit earlier than usual. We'll be back at regular 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow if you want to hang out with us. And of course, if you want to draft with us, link's going to be in the description, comment section, live chat. It's everywhere. If you use code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit 50% up to $250 on a new account. Plus, you'll get our 2024 rankings with code FLOCK. Plus, you'll get a special NBA pick'em, something like Luka Doncic, more or less than half a total point. The player is going to depend on the day that you sign up with code FLOCK. And Underdog's available in damn near every state. You can find that map right here. But thank you again. Really do appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen, and really hope you get to see you out with the live stream tomorrow night.